Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. I was recently talking with a business owner about some operational issues she was having. And as she walked me through what was happening with the team and specific things that weren't getting done or weren't getting done on time, we started having a conversation around accountability. And I covered what we've talked about on the show before, that there's really only two acceptable outcomes once you agree to do something, and that is you do it on time or you tell me before that you're not going to get it done, so that I, as a leader, have time to renegotiate either with my team or my customer or whoever the thing that you're doing for me is for. I can go back to that person. Maybe it's just for me. I can realign my expectations and priorities, but I need to know ahead of time so I have the opportunity to adjust. Tell me after the fact or at the last minute, well, then I don't really have that opportunity. So we talked about that, and it was clear that that wasn't happening either, that people were not getting things done and also not telling people ahead of time. So things were getting done late and people were finding out about it when it was late after the fact. And so it sounded like this was a pretty common problem at the company and pretty widespread and frequently occurring. So I said, well, when people don't do what they've agreed to do, what happens? Essentially, if they said they were going to do something, what if they don't? And that question, what if they don't, really seemed to catch her by surprise. She didn't really have a good answer. She kind of fumbled around with, well, we just say, hey, you got to do better, and they usually apologize and just know that things come up. And I said, well, but ultimately, like, what if they don't? And if they keep not delivering, what if they don't ever get back on track? What if they don't consistently figure this out? And she didn't really have a good answer. And I'm seeing this more and more in the companies that I talk to and work with, that the answer to the question, what if they don't, doesn't have a good answer. Leadership, ownership doesn't seem to know what to do when people don't do what they said they were going to do. And I have some theories about why and when this has started to become more apparent. Once I've sort of had the eyes and ears for it, now I'm seeing it everywhere. One of those things where once you buy a yellow car, you suddenly see yellow cars everywhere. And so I'm seeing and hearing this more and more. I wonder if it didn't start with 2020, when there was a major disruption in the workforce and there seemed to be a shift in the balance of power, if you will, from employers to employees, where once we had people go home, now it's been years of, in many cases, business owners and leaders trying to bring people back to the office and struggling to do that because employers are saying, hey, we don't want to do that and we're not going to, and you can't make us. And you're seeing this with some really high profile companies as they start to move back to in-office work and pushback they're getting. And so some of this, I think, might have started then, that this balance of power has shifted. And so now employees are able to say, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to get this done. And there's no consequence. And some of it, I think, might be generational. I think that we've come to really lean into comfort and lean away from any kind of discomfort or confrontation. And accountability clearly falls into that bucket. Accountability, by its very nature, is confrontational, because I'm expecting you to do something, and if you don't do it, well, then we've got a problem. And so an easy answer to that is to not bring it up when someone doesn't do something, to just not make a problem out of it. And I see leaders and owners more and more doing that, that somebody doesn't do what they said they were going to do, and there's no consequence. Because the owner says, well, I don't want to to like hurt their feelings, or I don't want to start a problem, or I don't want to be mean. Lots of things that I understand. And understand where they're coming from, but in a business setting, there's a trade-off and there's an expectation that you're going to do what you said you're going to do. And what I've come to start reminding business owners and leaders of is essentially the contract in the workplace. And that contract is, in exchange for me paying you, you're going to do what I ask you. And hopefully what we agree to, that it's not just me telling you what to do, but that we're having a dialogue and we're agreeing to these are the things that make sense for you to do. But in the end, an employee is agreeing to do things for the pay that the employer is going to provide. So the trade here, the exchange of value, is employer money for employee work. And I have a hard time believing that should the employer bail on their end of that deal, that is, if they would stop paying, that the employee would just accept that and say, well, I don't want to ask for my money because I don't want to be mean and I don't want to start a problem. I think people would be pretty quick, and rightfully so, to say, hey, we agreed that if I worked every day, you would pay me, and I'm going to need you to do that. And fair enough. Now, on the flip side, though, why are employers so reluctant to ask for their share in this exchange? When the employee doesn't do their part, they're taking the money, but they're not doing the work. Isn't it fair for the employer, the owner, the leader, to say, hey, you agreed to do these things. I'm paying you to do these things. I need you to do these things. And do these things means on time, or tell me ahead of time, as we talked about. So as leaders and business owners, we need to revisit this situation and be candid with people and remind them kindly and gently. You don't have to be a jerk about these things because there's some kind of harsh realities, that there's some clear factual distinctions here. It doesn't mean you need to be a jerk presenting it, but to present this clearly and say, listen, the idea of work here at this company is that I pay you, or the company pays you. You get paid somehow, whether if you're not the owner, you're still representing the ownership in terms of your relationship with your team. That, hey, we're paying you to do what we expect, and you've agreed to do those things, and so I need you to do those things. And what if you don't? Well, if you don't, then I can't ultimately keep paying you. Now, before we get there, we're going to have some conversations. We're going to try to understand what happened. We can certainly try to help you improve and learn what roadblocks you hit. Certainly, these tend to be process issues, not people issues. But ultimately, we've got to solve this problem, whether it's a process problem or a people problem, and get to the bottom of it and say, this can't keep happening. What if they don't? If they don't, we need to take action. We need to step in there and fix the problem, whether that's a process problem or ultimately a people problem. And if it's a people problem, ultimately the answer is, I can't keep paying you if you're not going to do what we've agreed you're going to do. So what if they don't? Well, then they can't work here anymore. And when I've walked leaders and owners through that, what I hear typically is, well, I don't want to go through the headache of hiring, that it's such a hassle to go find people and they're already here. And I just don't want to, if they leave or if I fire them, now I've got to go find somebody else. And yeah, the answer is yes, that is what you have to do. And so the question is it bad enough that you're to the point that you need to get that person out? Or can you work with them to improve performance and get them so that they do get the work done that you're paying them for? And if not, well, then you can't continue to allow this and expect your business to perform, because the problem is not just with this one person. As soon as you allow someone to not have to do what you're paying them to do, well, then why would anyone do what you're paying them to do? And people figure this out. People pick up on this really quickly. Once accountability is out the window for one person, it's very quickly out the window for everybody. Once, what if they don't, doesn't have an answer, when the answer to what if they don't is nothing happens if they don't, well, then everything starts to spiral down, because people are going to take the path of least resistance. And if the least resistance is take money and not do work, well, that's what people are going to do. And they're not going to like consciously say, oh, I guess it's a free for all now. I guess I can just go ahead and do whatever I want and take the money. I'm not going to imply that people are thinking that way. There might be some people that pick up on that and go, oh, hey, here's a chance to get something for nothing. I would present, though, and suggest more that what happens is people realize that when there's no accountability, they just try less hard. They're not going to bail on you. They're not going to literally stop. They're going to slow down, and they're going to take it less seriously, and they're going to care less. And none of those are things that you want in your business. You want people to care more and speed up and be engaged and all those things. And you've got to be able to hold people accountable to that. That's got to be the standard. And if they don't, something has to happen, because otherwise that's where you're going to end up. And so as leaders and owners, we need to step in and address this with people and make sure that we're clear that, yes, if you don't, then you can't work here. And business leaders and owners, yes, you're going to have to go and find someone else if that's the case. But if you don't go find someone else, and if you don't address this issue, and if you allow this to continue to happen in your business, you're just going to have a slow and painful death. And so the alternative rather, is to go and find somebody else. And that's just the fact. Otherwise, you're essentially, I think I've talked about this on the show before too, that you're the dog on the nail that's howling because you're sitting on a nail. It hurts enough that you whine and cry about it, but not enough that you actually get up and move, not enough that you actually do something about it. So if you're not going to address the issue of accountability, if you're not going to have an answer to what if they don't, well, then probably should just stop complaining about it, because it's not going to stop. In fact, it's going to spread. It's going to get worse. So let's not let that happen in our businesses. Let's have the courage to step up and address this issue and make sure that there's an answer to what if they don't, and that people are clear about what that answer is. That answer doesn't have to start with you're fired. It can start with, hey, let's break down what happened that this didn't get done. Let's break down why we were late. And let's address whatever system problems we have that are causing this. What's the process problem that we have that caused that? Let's fix that. If it comes down to the fact that it's a person who's unwilling or unable to do something, well then, if they're unable, can we get them to be able? And if they're unwilling, then let's address that. But we can't just continue to allow people to not do what we're paying them to do. And when we talk about what if they don't, it doesn't just refer to getting things done at work. It's not just tasks and accountability for your work. It's also core values. If our core value is put others first, and somebody consistently puts themselves first, well, then what if they don't follow that core value? What are we going to do then? Or if we're moving to working from home to working in the office, maybe we're adding a day a week. So we've been working 1 day a week in the office. We want to go to 2 days. And so now the expectation is 2 days a week in the office. But some people don't want to do that. Well, again, what if they don't? So it's all aspects of work. When, again, the exchange here is the compensation that we're providing for the whole work package, the tasks, the behavior, the core values, the expectations around where and when will be available. Where and when. So what if we expect people to be ready to go at 9 o'clock, that we can start meetings at 9, and yet somebody consistently doesn't start their day until 9:30? Well, again, what if they don't? It's the same question we've got to ask every time. Where there's an expectation, whether that's when we're going to start work, where we're physically going to work, how we're going to work with core values, or what work we're going to do, it all comes back to what if they don't? We've got to have an answer for that, or things start to fall apart. So step up, have courage, address this issue with your team. Let's hold people accountable. People want to be held accountable. People want to come to work and do good work and have others around them do good work. Nobody wants to come and have their teammates not care. Nobody wants to work at a place of apathy and where it drags them down. People come to be excited and get things done together. So let's make sure that's the culture that we're building. That's what's going to make our business successful. That's what's going to have our people be happy and fulfilled, and that's what's going to drive value to our customers. I'd love to hear your thoughts on accountability and your answer to the question, what if they don't, how you've addressed this, how you handle this, how you think about this. So please reach out to Ken at Clarity Advisors or give me a call and let's have a conversation around this. And we'll see you next time on the Clarity Advisors Show. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisors Show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.